What is up, guys? It is DMG here, and today we have a starter squad builder with the Bundesliga, and I could not be more excited because EA have finally released a large portion of players. It's not the full database because not a lot of silvers have still been released, but they've released the top 1,000 players, meaning that the lowest rated that I saw was 77, so there's not going to be some 75, 76s, but that's okay. In my opinion, we have the vast majority, which means we can do some starter league squad builders, we can find some hidden gems, and we can actually get FIFA 21 essentially started. Before we get into the video, make sure to like and subscribe, especially if you are new. That's going to be really helpful, especially going into FIFA 21 to get some momentum. And another quick thing before we start, EA have messed up the skill moves and the weak foot of a lot of players. So I saw that FootWiz does not include them because it had things like Socrates from Arsenal having 5-star skills, 4-star weak foot. Same thing for Diego Costa, and then someone like David Neres has 2-star skills. So obviously EA messed up there. So unfortunately we don't have weak foot and we don't have skills. So like I said, we are going to do the Bundesliga starter squad, and what we're going to do, we're going to go position by position and kind of pick out some players that are going to be good. And again, this is a starter squad, so it's not going to be the Lewandowskis or the Sanchos or the Gnabry's or anything like that. They're going to be the 77s to kind of 82, potentially 83 rated players. So starting in the left mid spot, we obviously have some good players to upgrade to, which is nice for a few months later on. So you have something to potentially look forward to, such as Sane, Coman, etc. But in terms of starting players, we have a few that are actually decent. We have Perisic, who could be more of a center attacking mid-type player. Most likely he will have a 5-star weak foot. We have Diaby, we have Leon Bailey, and we have Thuram. Now, these three guys are actually very good, these two specifically being wingers, and Thuram is honestly more of a striker, so if you want to switch your players around, you can. Out of these three, I am just going to go with Bailey since he is more of the true left winger type, plus he has much better shooting than Diaby here. Next up, we have striker, and we have some players to upgrade to. Lewa, Holland, obviously players that we want to eventually get to, so that's good. In terms of starting strikers, I kind of went through it. I only saw maybe a handful of them. Kramaric, Voland, Weghorst, right? These guys, the pace isn't really there, especially Voland. He got downgraded. Poulsen is not the worst. However, with his dribbling and his shooting, it's not that great. Mbolo looks to be a lot better. He's faster than Poulsen. Yes, he has the same dribbling, but his shooting is much, much better. And he also has pretty solid physical. So in terms of these strikers, I think Mbolo is the one to go with. There's also Rashica from Werder Bremen, who has a fantastic center forward. Honestly, this is probably one of the best cards. You know what? No, go with this one. Go with this one for sure. Mbolo can be kind of like, maybe someone to maybe try out since he is obviously more physical. But Rashica here, obviously the pace, the shooting, the dribbling, he's someone you want to get. And make sure to remember he's actually a center forward, so make sure to look for the center forward card rather than the striker. Next up, we have right wings, right mids. Now, unfortunately, there's actually not a whole lot of good starter wingers on the right side. Again, we have Sancho and Gnabry, who, yes, are not the fastest, but at least they have some good dribbling, and Gnabry has some good shooting on him. But the only decent starting one, there could potentially be two. Bellarabi's definitely the go-to, I would say, but Stefan, I think, could be usable enough. Next up, we have the midfield, and this is where it gets really good for the Bundesliga because you have a lot of great players to upgrade to. Kimmich could be a very good defensive mid. You obviously have Royce, Goretzka, and so you have, again, some good players to upgrade to, but then you also have players like Zakaria, Lamer, Sean, Sabitzer. You have 4 very solid players who, yes, are going to be more expensive near the start, but they're not going to be as expensive as a Kimmich or as a Royce because, they are lower rated. Personally, I think Lamer and Sabitzer are good options together because they have a hyperlink. So I'm going to go with both of them together. Delaney, that's also another fantastic option. And Nkunku, that's obviously a good option. Tolisso, I think he's good as I believe he's a non-rare. At least the leaked card that was eventually shown was a non-rare. You have Mateus Cunha, who I don't think is that bad for a starting center attacking mid. Most likely a striker, considering his passing is not the best. So he's mostly, like I said, going to be a striker. Next up, we have left back, which has actually been a bit of a sore spot for the Bundesliga in the past. However, they have some pretty good left backs this year. Davies, again, definitely someone to upgrade to. And while he's only 81 overall, he's most likely one of the best left backs in the game. So he's going to be expensive starting out. However, you have Schultz, you have Ruslan, you have Max, you have Gunter here. So 4 other fantastic options, all at a good overall. So most likely also going to be somewhat cheap. Again, not anywhere in the 10, 20, 30k range. Next up, we have some center backs, and there are a couple of options to eventually upgrade to. David Alaba is definitely one of them, and then you have Sule as well. However, something to keep in mind about Sule is that his discrepancy between acceleration and sprint speed is extremely high. So instead of having, 70 acceleration, 70 sprint speed, somewhere around there, it's actually 52 acceleration and 83 sprint speed. And because he is also 6'5", his agility and balance are also extremely low. Now, in terms of cheaper options, we do have a couple. I'm sure Hernandez is probably going to be a little bit more expensive. You have Klosterman here, who is fantastic in my eyes. Piszczek honestly doesn't look to be that bad. He might be a little bit short, but again, we don't really know the meta. Maybe height isn't as big of a deal like it was for FIFA 20. So if that's the case, Piszczek could definitely be someone that's good. Jonathan Tah, he's been okay in the past. Upamecano, Konate, Elvedi, those are good options as well. You have Boyota, you have Vogt, who maybe is not the best, and they have Tapsoba. So again, you have a large variety of some good options here. Next up, we have the right back spot, and while there are not a lot of solid right backs to eventually upgrade to, I think there are some good enough right backs just to use throughout the first few months of FIFA. So, for example, you have Mbabu here, obviously, who was overpowered as hell last year. It looks like he's going to be the same thing this year. Munier doesn't look to be horrible. Mukiel also looks to be decent. However, keep in mind that his dribbling and his passing are not the best. However, if you compare that to Mbabu, for example, it's going to be pretty similar. You also have Laner here as a great option. Lastly, we have the goalkeeper spot, and there are some fantastic options to eventually upgrade to, such as Neuer, Sommer, Gulashi, Berkey. So very good goalies to eventually, again, upgrade to once we get past the first few months of FIFA. Now, in terms of starting goalies, there's a few 83s if you happen to get lucky enough. There's Pavlenka. Bauman doesn't look to be horrible, although I have a vendetta against him personally, so he can fuck off. Jarstein doesn't look to be too bad. Farman, they butchered my boy. Oh no. Farman has gotten downgraded a little bit, but again, not the worst card. It's usable for a starter squad. You have Ulreich, you have Hitz. So yes, you do have some decent starting options at goalie as well. So that is it for the Bundesliga squad builder. Now we're going to go through and kind of mention some strong points, some weak points. So striker is a little bit of a weak spot. You have Rashika, who's definitely the best one to go for. However, you also do have Embolo. So you have 2 options, so it's not super deep, but both are actually pretty strong options. At the left mid spot, you do have some options. Again, there's Bailey, there's Perisic, there is Diaby, so you do have some good options there. Right wing, very weak. Bellarabi is kind of the only solid option there. So in my eyes, considering that the left wing and the right wing spot are somewhat, a little bit weaker. Again, the left wing is a little bit deeper, but it's not top tier. I would say if you do go Bundesliga, either go from the midfield and back, or you have to go a formation where there's not, where there's not any wingers. So, 4-2-2-2 or 4-1-2-1-2 narrow, something like that. And again, you could always change in game as well. The midfield is definitely the strongest point of the Bundesliga. I think you have some fantastic center mids and center defensive mids. In terms of center attacking mids, maybe a little bit weaker, but again, you have Rashika. You have some players who actually can play there. Sabitzer is not that bad either. So yes, I think the midfield is the strongest part of the Bundesliga. And then for the defense, that is also very deep as well. Left back, right back has some good options. Center back has some good options. However, you don't really have a lot of good options to eventually upgrade to. And then in goal, every league's going to have some good starter goalie. However, Bundesliga is great because, again, you have some great goalies to eventually upgrade to. There's one last thing I want to point out, and that is to look at some of the strong links you have. Leipzig has some great options, as you can see from the midfield here. You have 3 solid options. You have Klosterman, Upamecano in the back as well. You also have Konate in the back. You have Mukiel at right back. So Leipzig is full of some great starting options. Now, there's also another team that has some great options, and that is Borussia Mönchengladbach. And you actually have a lot of hyperlinks here. You have Embolo, you have Zakaria, you have Elvedi, some very good links there. You have Laner. So if you want to go with more of a hybrid, you can go with some Leipzig players, or if you want to, you could also go with some Borussia Mönchengladbach players. So that is going to do it for this Bundesliga squad builder. If you have any suggestions about what leagues or what hidden gems there are for other leagues, let me know and I'll be making videos over those. But like I said, that is going to do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been DMG. Peace.